The story begins in 1947 in New Mexico, where we see a radio operator receiving a mysterious signal. What made it even stranger was that his friend in another state also picked up the same peculiar signal. Both of them try to locate the source of this transmission. One of them, James, reaches the location where the signal is being transmitted. Upon arriving, he discovers a crater where something has seemingly crashed. His dog senses something unusual and runs toward the crater, but it doesn't return. When James goes after his dog, he sees something extremely bizarre in the crater. Suddenly, with a flash of bright light, James vanishes. The story then jumps to the year 2003 in Antarctica, where a research facility is shown. Scientists there discover an unknown object buried under the ice. They extract it and notify NASA. We are introduced to the protagonist, Julian, a professor at the University of California. Julian is a genius in cryptography and had previously worked on the SETI project, the search for extraterrestrial intelligence. However, due to the lack of tangible results, his project was mocked, and he faced ridicule. Most people on Earth believe that aliens don't exist, and because of the failure of his project, Julian left it and retreated to a quieter life as a professor. One day, while giving a lecture on communication and its significance, how even animals communicate in their unique ways, a student tries to flirt with him. This moment hints at Julian's weakness for women, which had already caused a failed relationship in his past. After class, the university chancellor, Dr. Beckham, calls Julian to his office. Julian fears the chancellor might have learned about his inappropriate relationships with students, but instead, the chancellor offers him a new job, analyzing an unknown signal detected by some scientists. Since Julian is an expert in cryptography, the authorities believe he could help decode the signal. Eager for the opportunity, Julian gladly accepts the assignment. However, what he doesn't know yet is that this signal is coming from the mysterious object discovered in Antarctica. Upon carefully analyzing the spectrogram of the signal, Julian concludes that it's not coming from any satellite or device on Earth. The signal seems like a beacon of some kind, highly powerful and advanced. This same signal had been picked up in multiple states across the U.S., which is why the government is taking it very seriously. The chancellor decides to send Julian to the Antarctic research facility so he can investigate the signal on site. For Julian, this was the moment he had been waiting for all his life, to discover something truly otherworldly. Without hesitation, he agrees to join the mission. It's the peak of winter, so Antarctica is facing harsh snowstorms, making it challenging to reach the research station. After much difficulty, their plane lands and Julian arrives at the station. There, he meets Nyla Olson, one of the station's staff members. The station is located deep underground, and due to frequent glacier shifts, they often feel tremors. Julian feels a bit uneasy, but Nyla reassures him that there's no danger. This facility was originally built for an entirely different purpose, to study extreme environments and their impact on genetically modified organisms. However, it's now the site of a groundbreaking discovery. The research station was originally designed for studying genetically modified plants. However, the mysterious object discovered earlier had also been brought there for further analysis. Julian soon meets the head of the facility, Dr. Alexei, who takes him to see the object, which was still encased in ice. Dr. Alexei explains that the ice around the object is melting unusually fast, which is why they've kept the room's temperature extremely low. Julian gazes at the object with curiosity. As soon as he gets closer, he begins to experience strange visions, almost like fragmented memories from his own life. Dr. Alexei leaves the room during this time, and Julian suddenly feels a mild electric shock in his hand. This makes him realize that the object is radiating energy. At this moment, he is interrupted by Kat, a biologist working at the station. Kat and Julian share a complicated past. They had been in a relationship before, but later broke up. It's evident from their conversation that Julian hasn't moved on from the breakup, while Kat appears to have regained control of her life and wants to keep things strictly professional. Kat takes Julian to his quarters and, before leaving, sarcastically reminds him to stay away from the other women in the facility, hinting at his past behavior. Later that night, Julian is still feeling residual energy in his hand. When he falls asleep, he begins to have strange and unsettling dreams. In one such dream, he walks toward the alien object, only to find the ice around it completely melted. He senses someone or something behind him, but before he can turn around, he wakes up, only to realize it was a dream within a dream. The next morning, Nyla wakes him up for breakfast. Before heading to the cafeteria, she takes him on a brief tour of the facility's farm, where genetically modified plants are grown. When Julian asks about its purpose, Nyla explains that NASA is conducting research on space colonization, hoping that one day humans will be able to inhabit other planets. She mentions that the project was led by Dr. Michael, a brilliant biologist who had even won a Nobel Prize for his work. In the farm, staff members wear minimal clothing due to the controlled climate, which Julian finds slightly odd. He also notices Kat talking to Dr. Michael and feels a pang of jealousy. Later, when Kat steps out of the farm, Julian confronts her, asking if something is going on between her and Michael. Annoyed by his questions, Kat firmly states that she's here for the research and nothing else. Meanwhile, in Washington, D.C., high-ranking government officials, including Secretary of Defense Ronald, are discussing the alien object. They review Julian's profile and seem to already know more about the signal and the object than they've shared with the station's team. Back at the station, Julian takes a break and meets Graham, a communications expert who is also analyzing the mysterious signal. Julian continues his efforts to decode the signal, convinced that it's extraterrestrial in origin, even though most others at the station remain skeptical. For them, the signal doesn't necessarily point to alien life. But Julian firmly believes this mystery is beyond the realm of Earth. During lunch, Julian interacts with other staff members, including Michael, who openly mocks Julian's previous work on the SETI project. The tension between the two becomes evident. The harsh weather outside has stranded the plane's pilots at the station, adding to the growing sense of isolation. After lunch, Julian, Graham, and Kat return to their work on the signal and the enigmatic object, determined to unravel its secrets. Julian and Graham head closer to the mysterious object because Julian is struggling to record the signal. He suggests placing an antenna near the object to amplify the signal and better understand it. Julian is convinced that the signal holds a hidden message. Meanwhile, in Washington, the Secretary of Defense is briefed on the connection between the mysterious signal from 1947 and this new one. Recognizing the potential danger, he orders Chancellor Beckham to be brought in to send an urgent message to Julian. Back at the Antarctic station, disaster strikes when the object falls due to a broken cable, shattering the ice encasing it. The staff rushes to inspect it and are stunned. The object structure is unlike anything they've ever seen. It's not a rock, a prehistoric creature, or a meteorite, as meteoroids don't transmit signals. Dr. Michael, ever the skeptic, dismisses the object as nonsense and returns to his work in the farm. Julian speculates that the object could be a black box, possibly from a crashed ship, and that it's transmitting a distress signal. However, this is just a theory for now. One of the staff suggests opening it, but Kat warns against it, fearing it could contain a dangerous virus. Most of the team dismisses her concerns. Michael mocks her fears, saying that if there truly is an alien inside, humanity would seem like Neanderthals in comparison. He argues that any alien species capable of building such technology would be far more advanced than humans. Despite Kat's objections, the team votes to open the object. They begin cutting into it. Dr. Alexei examines a fragment of the object and determines it isn't just a piece of rock, but a carbon-based alloy, meaning it was manufactured. Meanwhile, Julian is focused on decoding the signal. Nyla joins him and offers insights that help him view the binary numbers in a new way. Slowly but surely, Julian begins to decode the message. When he finally translates it, the message reads, "Do not open." Realizing the danger, Julian and Nyla rush to the object to warn the others, but they're too late. The object has already been opened. As it opens, a powerful electrical discharge is released, killing several staff members instantly. When Julian and Nyla arrive, they witness the horror. Inside the object is an alien, likely in a suspended state. However, as it awakens, it begins releasing a chemical agent. The chemical proves deadly, as it causes 4 more team members, including Nyla, to melt like wax within seconds. Elsewhere, in Washington, government officials hold an emergency meeting. Chancellor Beckham is informed that this isn't the first such object. A similar one crashed in 1947, and a man named James, who came into contact with it, was infected. The alien object contains a virus that can eradicate all living things in mere seconds. The officials explain that if anyone from the station, now potentially infected, leaves the area, it could lead to the extinction of humanity. They reveal that this same virus likely wiped out life on Mars long ago. To prevent a global catastrophe, the government decides to destroy the station with a nuclear bomb. Chancellor Beckham is tasked with convincing Julian to cooperate. Meanwhile, a Russian submarine begins moving toward the area. The Russian submarine was now just 3 hours away from the station. Chancellor Beckham had been instructed not to reveal the full truth to Julian, but Julian was perceptive enough to figure it out. The station was completely sealed, so nothing that had happened inside had yet affected the outside world. However, if even one infected person were to leave, the virus would spread and potentially destroy humanity. The explosion caused by the alien object had already knocked out half of the station's power. The storm outside was so intense that evacuation was impossible. Julian, Alexei, and Kat were determined not to leave, but Michael was unwilling to sacrifice himself. As soon as Michael proposed leaving, a fight broke out between him and Julian. During the chaos, the group confiscated a gun from a pilot. Michael argued that everyone in the station was already infected, but Alexei clarified that the virus didn't kill its host immediately. Instead, it kept the host alive as long as possible, which is why no one had yet shown severe symptoms. The team had set up a camera to monitor the alien object. While the group debated, Julian noticed something on the screen. The alien was no longer in its pod. Panic set in, as the group realized that if the alien died, they might also die due to the biological link. They began searching for the alien. Michael was growing increasingly unstable. Julian eventually spotted the alien. He set down his flashlight to show that he meant no harm. The alien approached him and placed its hand on Julian's head, transmitting electrical signals. Through these signals, Julian experienced visions of space, the alien's home planet, and its long journey to Earth. Just as the alien was sharing these memories, the pilot arrived and, out of fear, shot the alien. Upon being shot, the alien's body released a surge of energy and then vanished. Julian, shaken, said, "I felt its fear, and it trusted me." Michael became furious and insisted that they had less than 3 hours before the station would be destroyed. He argued that they needed to escape immediately. Julian proposed that no one leave until blood tests were conducted. When the results came back, everyone in the station was confirmed to be infected with the alien pathogen. This meant they had only 2 options: die in the station or leave and doom the rest of humanity. Following Julian's suggestion, Kat changed the access code to the entrance gate to ensure no one could leave. The Russian submarine was now preparing to fire a missile at the station. They were given orders to obliterate the area in the next 18 minutes. Michael, refusing to accept his fate, convinced the pilot to help him escape. The two of them started a violent altercation, injuring others in the process. Michael intended to leave through an alternate exit. However, as they passed through the farm, all the genetically modified plants withered and died within seconds due to the pathogen. Realizing what would happen if they left the station, the pilot had a change of heart and refused to go further. Michael, desperate, shot the pilot. Julian chased after Michael, but was too late. Michael had already exited the station. However, outside, a strange phenomenon occurred. The electrical charge from the alien object seemed to form a protective bubble around the station, shielding the others. Michael, however, was exposed to the high pressure and lack of oxygen outside and suffocated to death. Julian, remaining calm, was able to survive by controlling his breathing. Meanwhile, the Russian submarine fired its missile. Julian gathered the remaining survivors and led them to the exit, explaining how they could potentially survive. Just before the missile struck and annihilated the station, a bright light appeared. The alien, or its energy, returned and enveloped the group. In the blink of an eye, they vanished with the light. The station was completely destroyed in the explosion. The media reported the incident as a nuclear power plant malfunction, claiming that all the scientists on the station had perished. However, the truth of what happened, the alien, the virus, and the survivors who disappeared, remained a mystery to the world. In the final scene of the film, the alien light, or some form of energy, is shown leaving the solar system. It is strongly implied that Julian and his companions were inside this light. Perhaps the alien was taking them to its home planet. Who knows? And with that, friends, this story comes to an end.